Always an honor to speak on the Senate floor, especially an honor when the presiding officer is one of my favorite members of the Senate, and especially an honor when I'm going to be followed by the other senator from Ohio about whom I spoke yesterday. So thank you. Madam President, I think we can agree we've had a very productive 23 months in this session of the United States Senate. Democrats passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which will lower prescription drug costs, which will combat climate change, which will hold corporations accountable when they reward CEOs at the expense of workers. We work together on a bipartisan basis, and I work with my colleague, Senator Portman, on this one to pass an historic infrastructure bill. Presidents of both parties promised it, but we finally got it done starting last year with a new president and new Senate. It means moving forward on projects Americans need, like the Brent Spence Bridge, which is in Senator Portman's community on the other end of my state. It connects my state to Leader McConnell's state, and the Brent Spence Bridge, they say that something like 3% of GDP crosses over that bridge every single day. We also, Senator Portman and I also worked together to make sure that we had strong Buy America language, the strongest ever Buy America language. We teamed up because we know the jobs that creates in my state. We passed the PACT Act, again, bipartisan, the most comprehensive expansion of benefits for veterans who face toxic exposure in our country's history. Senator Tester, who sits just 2 seats away from me here, who came to the Senate with me. Senator Tester from Montana is the chair of the Veterans Committee. I will be next year the second most senior member of that committee. We wrote that bill together. I give more credit to Senator Tester, but we worked together. It's said the most comprehensive expansion of benefits. I've been in 15 Ohio counties since that bill passed, talking to people. If you are diagnosed as a veteran with one of 23 illnesses this bill spells out, you will automatically, and you were exposed to these football field-sized burn pits in Iraq or Afghanistan, you automatically will get coverage at the Cleveland VA or Dayton or Cincinnati or Chillicothe or one of the community-based clinics in Zanesville or Mansfield or Parma. After decades of inaction, we passed the first meaningful legislation on gun safety in decades, which will help make our schools and communities a bit safer. This summer, again, bipartisanly with Senator Portman and others, we passed the CHIPS and Science Act, already helping to reshore semiconductor manufacturing in the United States. Earlier today, I was with a number of people from Intel, the company that's going to have a huge expansion. And that company has promised when they hire 5,000 workers, which they've already started, to do the construction on the Intel manufacturing plant that they are hiring. They have a product, a so-called PLA, which means they'll hire union workers. And in the worst depths, and this is what I want to talk about in more detail, sorry for the long lead-in, Madam President, in the worst depths of COVID, Democrats passed the American Rescue Plan, which temporarily expanded the child tax credit. It kept renters in their homes. It saved the pensions of more than 1 million retirees. It saved the pensions already of 40,000 Ohio workers, and that number will grow to 100,000 by the time it's fully in effect. I sat on the floor that day. It was March 6th. Sat next to Senator Casey, one of my best friends here from Pennsylvania, and I turned to him when we passed the child tax credit and the pension bill and the keeping renters in their homes. I said, this is the best day of my career, because I knew what it would mean to do the child tax credit. The bill passed March 6th at 12:30 in the afternoon after a 12-hour vote, passed by one vote 2 different times. The president signed it a few days later. I called Secretary Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury. She immediately enlisted the head of the Internal Revenue Service, who began the process. By mid-July, checks were going out to hundreds of thousands of families in Minnesota and Ohio across the country. We saw in the space of about 3 months a 40% reduction in the child poverty rate. I heard from parents all around the state, helping them afford childcare, groceries, rent, new school clothes, summer camps. For many kids, first time ever to get to go to a summer camp. We know what a difference this made at a time when families struggled to keep up with rising costs. Unfortunately, the child tax credit expansion ended. in 2021. It shouldn't have happened, but we have an opportunity now to get it going again. The bipartisan work of this Congress doesn't have to be done yet. And here's what we need to do. In 2017 tax law, Republicans passed, gave profitable corporations a 14% reduction in the corporate tax rate. A huge gift. I opposed it. Many of us did. It's a huge gift to the mega wealthy and to corporations. Part of that law changed the rules for business deduction. It said, I quote, it said, you get a 14% cut to the corporate rate, but now you have to amortize R&D, research and development expensing. There's going to be more of a limit on the interest you can deduct. You won't be able to deduct all of your investments in the year you make them, just 4/5. Now, businesses are asking us to undo these new rules. In exchange, are they offering to give back a point in the corporate rate? Nope, they got a huge windfall 5 years ago. They want more now. Are they offering maybe a half a point? Nope. A quarter point? No, they just want another tax cut. Here's what I want everybody to hear. In this body and throughout the United States, Democrats are willing to do it. We believe we should invest in manufacturing. We should believe in American families and American children. As part of a balanced package, we'll make the changes businesses are asking for. We've already offered to make these changes. All we're saying is it needs to be balanced. If we're going to give huge tax cuts to large corporations, we're going to, at the same time, make sure we take care of children. And this isn't just the lowest income kids. They certainly are part of it. This is 90% of children in Ohio. This is 2 million Ohio children. It's all but the wealthiest 10% families get this tax cut. And you know what that means? Think about if this child tax credit had been in effect in the last year, how it would have blunted the inflation, the damage from inflation that afflicted so many families. If they were getting that $250 or $300 per child per month as they got through calendar year 2021, from July until the end of the year and then the beginning of the next year, if they had, imagine how much easier their lives have been, how much more they would have been able to cope with inflation if they had gotten that monthly $250 or $300 check. It's a smart policy. It's a win-win for every single one of our states. 1 in 4 kids living in rural Idaho are left out of the full child tax credit. In Kentucky and Ohio, that number is 1 in 3. We can fix that. Raising kids is hard work. I heard time and again after we passed the CTC, people said it made it just a little bit easier for families. We got so many calls and letters, I'm sure Senator Portman did too, about how this would make people's lives just a little bit easier. That if you have 2 children, 2 and 4 years old, you'd get $600 a month. If you had 3 kids that were 7, 10, and 12, you would have gotten $750 a month for a period of time. So what are we here for in this body? We're not just here to give tax cuts to rich people and to corporations. We should try to make things just a little bit easier. I heard that term over and over. It's made it just a little bit easier for the families we represent. There's a deal to be had here. Let's knock out one more bipartisan victory for the American people before we go home. Yes, let's do the research and development tax break. It will help us grow jobs, but at the same time, let us do the child tax credit expansion. It will help us grow our children. It will make a huge difference. I ask my colleagues, let's get this done. I yield the floor, Mr. President.